Really glad to hear the reports that we've gotten from folks that the conversations were productive in our breakout sessions for lunch. I'm sure there were really good conversations. We're hearing a lot about story sharing and all the rest. It would be great to hear about any big breakthroughs or notable exchanges. You can report those to your table facilitators if you haven't already, or to one of the organizational staff who are here today. And we will be sending out an event evaluation and feedback form that we hope you'll fill out. You'll be getting an email about that later this afternoon. And we really do want your feedback. We don't know if we're going to do this again, but we were just talking earlier in one of the smaller sessions about the value of these virtual sessions and how to make them work over the course of time in the future to encourage engagement. So your feedback's really helpful. I also want to make sure to send a thank you. The legislators aren't here, they've all left, but thank you to the legislators who moved around to different regions to help us make sure we had coverage to all the different tables. Some of you may not have seen your legislator because they were helpfully covering another place, but they were here. Many of them were here, over 40 were here, and we really appreciate their participation. And unlike in the ballroom where you can see people, it's hard for us to tell you all of the ones who were here, but just because you didn't see your legislator in your region doesn't mean that they weren't here today. So I want to quickly note that because of the virtual setting, this year we are not going to be able to do the usual State House activities in the afternoon. That includes the rally, which we do hope to do next year. And Representative Mulvaney-Stanek is planning to do an ECDL themed devotional, and a resolution celebrating ECDL is being sponsored by Representative James, which will be read on the virtual House floor this week. So thank you to them for their support and for the notice that that gives us in the House chamber. It has been a great day, and we hope that you'll keep up the momentum we've built through our discussions. Please stay in touch with your legislators and with lead organizations, and let us know how we can support you in your advocacy in the coming days, weeks, and months. It will be needed, and we're here to help you. A number of you have asked questions about doing these kinds of sessions in the future or how you can get plugged in. Please do follow up with us. It's what we're here for. We would love to hear from you, so please get back in touch. Finally, we do have some great remarks to wrap up the day. I've gotten a sneak peek of some of them, so I know you'll want to hear them. And so please stick with us for a few minutes more. We'll run through approximately 1:30. We might wrap up a little earlier than that. So the first recorded comments are from Governor Phil Scott. So we'll switch off to that.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for participating in today's event, which I know includes early childhood educators, parents, social service providers, community agency leaders, legislators, and more. This is an important event where you typically get to connect with lawmakers to make sure the voices of Vermont kids are heard, and I'm glad to see this year is no different. I appreciate that the co-hosts, the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance, Let's Grow Kids, and Building Bright Futures, have made adjustments to allow us to gather virtually this year. Obviously, the pandemic has put a tremendous burden on all of us, and I know child care and family support staff have worked incredibly hard. You stepped up since day one, with many centers staying open throughout the pandemic to help those on the front lines, and for that, I'm deeply grateful. I also know you felt the stress of the families you care for, in addition to your own. And I know the financial and emotional burden you're feeling as well. That's why my administration worked with the legislature to get over $40 million in federal assistance into the community and into your programs. This included almost $8.5 million to support programs in the early days when many children couldn't attend. About $19 million to help make physical changes so that you could reopen and continue to operate, and nearly $4 million in bonuses for child care staff. I also appreciate the collaborative spirit that allowed us to set up child care hubs, providing almost $4 million to help families continue working during remote school days. We should all be proud of these efforts to keep the system running, and I look forward to continuing this work together. I know we have much more work to do in this area. I have a cradle-to-career vision for education in the state. This spans from the earliest and most critical years of life in terms of brain development, all the way to preparing for a career. So this year, I've asked the legislature to modernize the lottery and then dedicate the additional revenue to early care and learning, as well as create a property tax exemption for pre-K providers, which would grow to include all licensed child care providers next year. As well, I've once again asked the legislature to work with me to bring together the state's early care and learning oversight and funding between the Agency of Education and the Agency of Human Services. It's important to have an integrated system of services that serves our early childhood communities while respecting the role of private providers. So, thank you again for your work on behalf of Vermont's children and for taking the time to participate, because your voice truly matters, and we're listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Your voice matters, and we're listening. I love it. What a great message for today, and what a day. Thank you very much, Governor, for those remarks. Oh, there we go. Little cyber fairies turning my video off. It's pretty remarkable that we would get so many folks on this day and then still here with us at the end of the day, especially it being in this virtual format. So from the breakouts that I was in and the lunch sessions, your voices do matter and people are listening. So I now have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. Remarks from the Senate President Pro Tem, Becca Balint.
Good morning. I'm Senator Becca Balint, and I represent Windham County. I'm the President Pro Tem in the Senate. I'm also a former teacher and a mom to two children, ages 10 and 13. And one of the enchanting and beautiful things about having kids is that oftentimes young children don't have a filter, and that can make for some pretty candid and funny conversations. And it can also be a little heartbreaking when they're so blunt, like when they name a truth. Like the time my children and I were driving home from school one day, and they were discussing various classmates and where each of them lived. And at one point, my then young son said, "I think Riley lives in a car." "Mom, why does Riley live in a car? Why doesn't she have a house?" And instantly, I was transported back to my own experience as a classroom teacher. Over the years, I've had students who lived in tents, others who had to couch surf, and some students who lived in unhealthy, mold-filled housing. And these were kids who often had chronic coughs, runny noses. They struggled with respiratory illnesses like asthma. We were asking them to be successful students. We were asking them to show up every day ready to learn. And essentially, we were asking them to pretend that they were starting on the same starting line as all the other students. And we really have to stop that gaslighting. Kids need and deserve safe, warm, clean housing. And that's why I support the Vermont Affordable Housing Coalition in its push for full statutory funding for VHCB. We need increased rental assistance and supportive services. We also need statewide housing code enforcement. And I've worked on these issues for years in the Senate, and I will continue to fight for them. And there are so many parts of your legislative agenda that I support. I chose to focus on housing in these short remarks because, well, I only had 2 minutes and that goes quickly. And I wanted you to think carefully and specifically about the children and the families you're fighting for. Thank you for all of your work. Thank you for your understanding that Vermont's children need us to be their voices. The other thing I want to say is, please don't get discouraged. I know we're all tired and we're weary from the pandemic. I know it. But take a moment to grieve and to acknowledge your heartache and your fear. And then we have to boost each other up and keep on doing the work. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Powerful words. Thank you so much, Senator. And she just illustrated again the power of stories. She had me at her first spotlight and first detail there. Thank you very much for being with us and for your words. So what a wonderful day. I really hope you all see that a gathering like this sends a powerful message that early childhood issues matter in our communities. Your work matters, and it matters to our future. And we have another speaker. It's my honor to introduce Congressman Peter Welch, a champion for Vermonters and for children every day for us down in Washington, D.C. So let's welcome remarks from Congressman Welch.
I want to say thank you to everyone who is participating in Early Childhood Day at the State House. We have to do it virtually, but believe me, we have to do it. We're a year into this pandemic, and if it has shown us anything, it is the absolute necessity that we have early childhood development, early childhood childcare for our kids. That's absolutely essential to their well-being and future. It's absolutely essential to our families. I mean, think about all of the moms and dads who have been juggling the anxiety of the pandemic with whether they can work or they can't, and not knowing whether they have access to quality childcare where they can be confident their kids are well taken care of and are learning and socializing and doing all those things that early in life are so essential to our success later in life. In Washington, Bernie and I and Patrick are doing all we can to help families and to help put a focus on the needs of children. And we'll keep that up. The food benefits, the individual checks, the money that is going into childcare is absolutely essential. But what I've learned, and I think we've all seen, is that this can't be a one-time event that is responsive to the pandemic. It has to be something that is integrated into the social fabric of this state and this country. And your advocacy is what is helping really make a difference for us to stay the course and not to backslide on the progress that we've made on early childhood care and early childhood development. So keep up your good work, and I'll continue to do all I can to get the resources back to Vermont so that you can be successful here on behalf of our kids and on behalf of our future. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it was so incredibly great to have Congressman Welch here. And I want to say a quick thank you to all of you for being here today to participate in these series of discussions. You're hearing the jets fly over me. I'm sure as we move through the state, you will all get this, but I'm in Williston right now, so that's what you're hearing in my background. But thank you for everyone who is here, both from the legislature, all of our providers, educators. You know, Early Childhood Day at the legislature really is an important day for cross-sector collaboration and partners to come together and have some discussions about how we best support kids and families. So our teams at the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance, Let's Grow Kids, and Building Bright Futures really hope that you were able to make some connections today with other early childhood partners, with legislators, and then to really have those discussions about the challenges kids and families are facing, as well as some of the strategies that our advocacy partners are moving forward and supporting to promote optimal outcomes for kids and families. You know, just in my small group, there were so many different types of topics that came up, which is such a reminder about how complex our early childhood system really is. Some of those topics included, you know, how we support the basic needs of children and families through nutrition programs, paid family leave, challenges associated with the early childhood workforce, childcare benefits cliffs and how families are making decisions about whether or not they can work based on childcare and other factors, and then how the education system and other bills in our legislature right now are supporting the needs of kids and families. So we just want to thank you from all of our teams for being here today and for taking the time as really important stakeholders to share your voice. And as you heard in the last few minutes, you have been heard. And it's important for you to keep sharing your voice and your stories. I think it's also important to note that we have really strong leaders in the state of Vermont who are fighting for kids and families every single day. So thank you to all of you who are doing that work. I think one of the most important things I hope that folks are taking away from today's discussion is that, yes, there are many challenges in our early childhood system, but Vermont is doing an incredible job. And we have an opportunity right now to be a national leader in the early childhood field and set the tone for best practices across the country. And that starts with our youngest and most vulnerable kids, families, educators, and providers across all different professions. So on behalf of the Early Childhood Day at the Legislature team, thank you all for reaffirming your commitment to early childhood and improving the well-being of kids and families in Vermont. And thank you for everything you do every day.